So the internet is downright hungry for Nintendo Switch Pokemon news, specifically this Pokemon game that we know is coming, as they told us last E3 in their office setting, where they just said, hey, we're working on a Pokemon Switch game. It might take over a year. Well, technically we're coming up on a year anniversary now for that announcement. Now, even back in 2016, we were told by Eurogamer from a report that they were working on it then under the name Pokemon Stars. Now, since then, Eurogamer has pretty much speculated that what they may have seen was some sort of prototype or just something they were working on internally that might not be what we get now. So Pokemon Stars, that might be out of the question. Maybe it's 2 versions or something, not a third break-off version of the 3DS games. So now we're all left wondering, when is this announcement happening and what is it going to be? Now, there are a lot of rumors flying around. We all like rumors. They're fun to look at. They're fun to talk about. They're fun to speculate on. But the internet is definitely getting full of rumors at this point, and we all have to just try to figure out, when is this game coming out? The good news is, more than likely, we won't have to wait too much longer. Now, based on previous announcements and events, and based on one event next week that we're going to get into, we honestly might not have to wait more than a week to at least hear something about Pokemon. Small, yes, it might be a little thing, but it could also be the full-blown announcement. Now, if you remember last year leading up to E3, we kind of thought there would be some sort of announcement prior to that E3. There wasn't. However, it was pointed out by Distify on Twitter at the time. This was in May, early May, on Twitter, where they put this slide up explaining to a lot of people that mainline Pokemon games generally are not announced with their titles at E3s. Usually it's around E3. See, Game Freak generally does not want to be overshadowed by anything else shown. They want to have their own event to show off Pokemon. In fact, as you can see the list there, going all the way from Pokemon Sun and Moon all the way down to Fire Red and Leaf Green, they jump around in the year, but a lot of times, more times than not actually, they fall sometime in May, April, sometimes even after E3, which was very weird. But you can see January, February, April, May are all more represented on here than anything else. But there are some, which is kind of funny, that were revealed in September. Even one that was revealed very, very close to E3 in July. I think this is the biggest thing that is making people believe we'll get some kind of announcement ahead of E3. Again, they don't want to be lumped in with some of the bigger announcements that are definitely going to be at E3 this year, as Nintendo likes to, at least last year they did, like to surprise everyone. Look what happened to Yoshi, for example. Why Pokemon is bigger than Yoshi. Yoshi followed directly behind Metroid Prime, and most people even forgot that that trailer even existed because it came through so quickly while people were still so hyped up for Prime. Like I said, Pokemon's at least bigger than Yoshi and would get a look, but if you have that many big announcements in a short span of time, there's a chance people forget about one and remember the other. And the Pokemon, Game Freak, the Pokemon Company, Nintendo, they have a strong enough IP, obviously, with Pokemon to hold its own direct and just be put in front of everyone all at once. And while the game was technically announced at last year's E3, I'm looking for a title. What is this going to be called? Because I always hear just funny rumored subtitles getting thrown around everywhere. More than likely, there will be 2 games. I know some people might not like that because they'll be $60 games, but realistically, they can get that. Pokemon fans will buy those games. They'll buy either one or they'll buy both. When I worked at stores, we would sell 2 copies to most people, more than you'd think. It was $80, but they would still buy both just so they had both. Sun and Moon, they're getting both, $80. All right, we're good. So don't be surprised if $120 gets passed through the register by one person over and over again because they want to get both copies. Also, I have no idea what the titles are going to be, so why don't you leave your best guesses down in the comments. We've heard like, what, Pokemon Biohazard or Nuclear or Pokemon Air and Ground and all. Just so many like weird subtitles. Who knows though? They've done some weird stuff with their subtitling before, so honestly, your guess is probably as good as mine in this case. So let's talk about next week. What is happening next week that could force Nintendo's hand to show us Pokemon? And that would be the investors briefing. The investor briefing is coming up next Thursday in Japan, April 26th. And this is an event where they show up, all the investors who have money in Nintendo show up, the big ones generally, and they're allowed to ask questions, and they demand generally an investor's packet that explains how the company is doing, how much money are they making for the company that I'm heavily invested in, and what are our future plans. Specifically, what games do we have coming up that's going to make us, the investors, a bunch of money, a return on our investment, essentially. And they're also allowed, like I said, to ask questions straight up to Kimishima and Miyamoto, the full head of Nintendo, essentially. They're allowed to ask all of these questions, whether it's based on the theme park that they're building, any new games coming up, or what's going on with that Pokemon game? Now, of course, this one coming up is going to cover the previous quarter ending at the end of last month, so March 31st. That's where it's going to end. They'll show us, all right, how many Switch systems are out there, how many 3DS systems are out there now shipped, at least an updated number from the 14 or so million that we saw, 14.5 million or so that we know now. Where is that? And then they're going to give out a packet that shows, again, the amount of money they've made, net profit, and they will also give out another packet that we saw last time that shows estimated time of arrivals for games. Some of them were TBA, they're to be announced. Bayonetta 3 to be announced. Okay. Pokemon 2018 or later. That's what it was sitting at last time. So we need to keep an eye on this packet, because if it comes back and it says just 2018, they use a little eraser, got that or later out of there, that means they're pretty confident now. They're very conservative with their investors, because the last thing we want to do is promise them one thing and then have to turn around and say it's not happening. That will generally lower your stocks. Even if they have to push it back, that will generally show a decline in your stocks. So they'd rather tell you now. We don't know when it's coming out yet, so just be ready when it is, as opposed to just saying it's coming out tomorrow and then have to push it back, weeks or something. So look for that. We're looking to see if they just move it to 2018. If they leave it at 2018 or later, that means they're still not confident enough to tell their investors that it is coming out this year, and that means that they probably don't even know if it's coming out this year. And this briefing is going to take place a month and a half or so before E3. It's an interesting time because, of course, they will be asking them a lot of questions about games that might not even be announced. I'm sure you'll see something about Metroid Prime. Oh, how is that development going? Or they'll ask about the 3DS. Are we keeping this thing around, or are we going to move all the way to the Switch this year? What are we doing there? And then you also get dumb questions like, hey, can we get free tickets to the Universal attraction when that opens up? That was an actual thing. Can we get free passes to get to the head of the line and everything? Why would you waste your question like that? Ask, is Pokemon coming out this year? What are there two versions? There's so many things you can ask, because these investors should be seeing Pokemon as money, not necessarily a game. In fact, the Pokemon company knows how well these games sell. Last year, they actually crossed 300 million units sold in its lifetime. That is an obscene amount. If you take a look at the sales for even the worst selling Pokemon game with Pokemon Emerald, that still cracked 6 million units. You know how many companies would love to have a 6 million unit seller, and that is the worst selling Pokemon? Blue and Red, or if you knew it as Green and Red, that sold over 30 million copies together. So this is a powerful franchise, one that investors should look at and see dollar signs, and I'm sure that's what they see. So if I was them, I'd be asking all about Pokemon. When can we expect it? How is development going? And are there going to be two versions? Anything they can, anything to get out of them. No one cares. I mean, they don't care, but people do. They don't care about Pokemon types or who are the starters. They just want to know when it's coming out and if they can expect it out in the fourth quarter, for example, or the third quarter, I guess in this case. Can we expect it out by holiday? Because that's when the money comes in. One thing is certainly for sure, it seems that a lot of the people online, Pokemon insiders that have leaked different things out, whether it's that controversial screenshot or the localization information, they seem pretty confident that there was going to be an announcement as soon as last week. Now a lot of them believe that it's coming up this week. More than likely because that investors briefing, Nintendo may want to get out in front of it, maybe like next Tuesday. I'm throwing that out there. It could also just happen in May. Maybe they just kind of skate through that investors briefing as best they can and not give out a lot of information for what the Pokemon Company and Game Freak are doing. However, it's gotten to the point where some leakers like Pixelpark can only communicate through drawings until that announcement happens, because it didn't happen in the previous 30 days that they thought it would happen. Essentially, Pixelpark thought it would happen the first 3 weeks of April, basically, and now they have to draw everything they want to communicate on Twitter. Others have said by multiple sources that, a Pokemon announcement is coming sometime in the next week. Who are those multiple sources? Who knows? I mean, who knows? They're probably looking at the big picture and seeing that investors briefing is coming up, and that is the time when Nintendo will be grilled for these questions. One thing's for sure, Pokemon information, big or small, is coming from Nintendo this week, whether they want to or not, because they will either tell us things like 2018 or later is still there, which lets us know that they're still not confident in that release date. Investors will probably ask something, or maybe they just put information out there, whether it's a direct is happening next week, a direct is happening in 2 days, or they just put out a trailer for the game and announce it straight up. And then they want to push everything to E3 and have a full treehouse around it. There is a lot of information floating around, so just be careful when you're out there because rumors are everywhere. So I guess we'll have to wait though. Next Thursday, it's going to be interesting. I'll be going over all of it here as usual. We'll do all of that. Probably maybe even a separate video if there's enough information there. Otherwise, it will fall into Newswave more than likely on Friday morning, next Friday morning, so a week from now. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it here for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you guys did. Hit the dislike if not. And let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Do you think a Pokemon Direct is incoming? Do you think it's imminent? Do you think it's within the next week? Do you think they'll try to get it out before next Thursday, maybe on Tuesday or something, just to get investors all excited for what's going to make them a ton of money, but of course give us a brand new Pokemon on the first time it's ever gone to a home console? That's the most exciting part. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you next time.